Yo, what's going on, everybody? Rob here with the Curated Culture. And today I wanted to take a few moments to do a quick little dive into Google's new Google TV streamer. Now, if you're like me, you've probably been using the old Chromecast with Google TV, and you noticed not too long ago that Google dropped this new streamer as a replacement. Now, I didn't have too many big concerns about the old Chromecast. It did have its little quirks performance wise, but outside of that, it's been serviceable, right? Outside of the occasional lag or overall app crash, it's been pretty decent. But when Google announced their new streamer, I decided I had to try it. They upgraded the RAM, they upgraded the storage, and the interface itself has changed a little bit. So I wanted to get my hands on one to find out if it really is a worthy successor to the Chromecast with Google TV or if it was just hype. So without further ado, let's jump on into it and find out if it's really that good. All right, guys. So first things first, let's talk about what's specifically in the box. Obviously, you're going to get the streamer itself. You're going to get this super awesome, sleek new remote, which we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then you also get a power brick and a USB-C cable. Now, right off the bat, you can see the design of the streamer is a little more streamlined and more modern, especially when you flip it around on the back. You'll notice that there are three ports on the back here. You have an HDMI port, you have an Ethernet port, and you also have the USB-C port for providing power. Now, interestingly enough, notice there's an HDMI port on the back of this guy. And that's because the streamer doesn't have a native HDMI adapter built into it. Instead, they opted to provide a separate port, which means if you don't have an HDMI cable laying around, you're probably going to have to purchase one. Now, I know the biggest question on everybody's mind is, Rob, what's really different about it? So yeah, they added a couple extra ports, but what did they really change under the hood? Now, this is where I think the streamer sets itself apart from the Chromecast with Google TV in a very big way. I mean, this TV streamer boasts some pretty serious performance enhancements or improvements. We're talking a faster processor going from 4 gigs of RAM on the other one to 8 gigs of RAM here. And they quadrupled the storage. So we moved from 8 gigs of storage on the Chromecast with Google TV all the way up to 32 gigs of storage on the streamer. Lots of space for all your favorite apps and games. Yes, games. And that also gives it a little more functionality as well. Now, the old Chromecast, while it was functional, it was subject to lag quite a few times, especially when it came time to loading up like some really high quality 4K content or live sports or a combination of the two. Now, the new streamer, butter smooth. Have not had an issue with it at all. And in fact, it's pretty much the easiest migration that you'll make, especially if you're using the old Chromecast, because for the most part, the interfaces are almost identical. Now, for the few days that I've been using the Google Streamer, I have been zipping through apps with no problem. I've been able to load up all my favorite content on all of my favorite apps, and I even done some light gaming, and it legitimately hasn't skipped a beat. And speaking of apps, you also get access to the entire Google TV ecosystem, which means you'll be able to load up things like Netflix, which also has a dedicated button on that remote, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN, Apple TV, and yes, of course, all of the YouTube products, YouTube TV or YouTube, which also have dedicated buttons on the remote. And they just flat out work. Now, Google is also making the voice component more reactive on this side of things, partly because you're going from just a standard traditional Google Assistant into some Gemini features. That's right. The streamer also boasts a couple, not fully integrated just yet, but a couple AI features that I think make all the difference. Now, for starters, one of those small upgrades that I mentioned earlier is in the actual Google TV Hub itself, where you can actually now control even more of your smart home devices thanks to Matter compatibility within the streamer. Now, if you're not familiar with what Matter is, think of it like a universal language that allows multiple types of smart home devices to all be utilized from one central hub. That means you can do things like adjust your thermostat if you have a Nest or smart thermostat connected. You can look at your doorbell camera, and you can do that all from the main interface here. Again, Google is taking several steps forward with making sure that this thing is smarter than all the previous iterations of any Google streaming device beforehand. Now, with that being said, you also get a few different AI features, things like generative AI wallpapers. You can do custom screensavers with your family. And now shows will also gain the benefit of AI summaries. So you can look up a specific TV show or a specific actor, and it'll give you a small little summary to kind of encapsulate what the show is about or what projects the actor has worked in, just to give you a bit more info right at the tip of your fingers. Now, speaking of at the tip of your fingers, let's talk about that remote. Now, the remote, in my eyes, also represents another big step up for the Google streamer in comparison to the Chromecast with Google TV. The remote itself is actually a bit taller, longer, so it's more ergonomic. And then they moved all of the buttons to just the front of the remote. That's right, no more volume buttons on the side. They're now right on the front of the remote, where they should be. I think those volume buttons should have been there to begin with, right next to the Google Assistant and mute buttons. Up top, you have the back and the home keys. You have that little round D-pad for navigation. And then the lower half of the remote has your dedicated YouTube and Netflix buttons, along with a power and then a mappable. I use it honestly just to switch inputs, but you can map that button to pretty much anything. Now, another one of the really cool features about the set-top box and the remote itself is there's a little button on the back of the streamer that you can press now in case you happen to misplace the remote. Now, pressing this button engages a Find My Remote feature that basically allows the remote to play a not so loud, but also not so annoying chime until you actually locate it and press a button on the remote to stop it. I tested it briefly and I actually enjoyed it. Like I said, it was really simple to execute and not too annoying, and really made it really easy to find my remote. So, the $1 million question: how much is this thing going to set me back? Well, surprisingly, it's not too terrible. It is a little pricey when you compare it to some of the other things like your Roku or your Fire Sticks or Fire TV, I should say, but also pretty close in price to what you would pay for an Apple TV. The Google TV streamer is $99 right now. I actually had a crap ton of Google Store credit because I picked up my wife and I some Pixels this past summer. And as a result, I got mine for the low price of free 99, which was even better. Now, be that as it may, $100 is still more than the original pricing on the Chromecast with Google TV. But given the upgrades and the functionality, honestly, I think it's a worthwhile investment. So, is the new Google TV streamer a must have? For me, yes, it is a worthwhile upgrade and definitely a good investment, especially if you also plan on upgrading your home into more smart home friendly gadgets. If you don't have any major issues with your Chromecast with Google TV, then yeah, continue to rock with it. They'll continue to work perfectly fine. I think for me and how I use my devices, this is definitely a necessary step up. From where I stand, the speed, the improved remote, and again, the smart home integration definitely makes it a fantastic choice for anybody that's looking to upgrade their streaming experience. Now, You guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did you happen to pick up the Google TV streamer? And if so, how do you feel about it? If not, what are you currently using and what are your favorite features about it? Also, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up if you liked anything about it. And also hit that subscribe icon down below so you get more videos just like this one. In the meantime, in between time, I am Rob, aka Robbie Deezle. I appreciate y'all checking this one out, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace.